Hi, I'm Scott Engel, Managing Director of RotoExperts.com. It's fantasy football season, and I am the king. I am fantasy. Getting you ready for the new campaign with 5 key tips for fantasy football success this season. No matter what position you sit in the first round, a lot of fantasy owners tend to try to guess what's going to happen in front of them. Well, I think this guy might slip to me. Or I think I'm going to have a good shot at this guy because I mocked. I see the first 8 picks going like this. Don't waste time with guesswork. You don't know exactly what's going to happen ahead of you. And even if you're talking to other owners, a lot of times they won't tell you the truth. If you're at, say, the number 8 pick, don't try to guess what's going to happen in front of you. Just have your top 8 guys listed and take the top guy off the board when it's your turn. Be prepared. Don't try to guess. Fantasy players always ask me, Scott, how should I go in the first 4 rounds? Should I go running back, wide receiver? Should I go running back, wide receiver, running back? What's the formula for a successful draft? Guess what? There is no preset formula for a successful draft. You have to let the draft come to you. Every draft is different. Every draft is unique. You have to go with the flow. You never know what's going to happen. Have a loose plan, but don't be rigid. Some fantasy players just love the connection. I want to go Matthew Stafford, Calvin Johnson. I want to go Matt Ryan to Julio Jones because every time these guys connect, it's double the points. I want to have Darren Sproles and Marcus Colston. It's a great offense. Let me tell you something. That can hurt you in fantasy football. You need to balance your roster. If you lean too much on one team, it could prove to be deadly. If you have too many New York Giants and they score 13 points in a week, you may have a fantasy loss on your hands. Everybody wants to make sure they get their handcuff during a fantasy draft, but you have to be flexible with handcuffs. Sometimes the handcuff isn't even always apparent in the preseason. It might change throughout the regular season. You don't know if Joseph Randle's going to be locked in as the handcuff for DeMarco Murray. Somebody else might step forward there. So if you know the direct handcuff, you have to draft him. If you have Ray Rice, you want to get Bernard Pierce. But if you have Marshawn Lynch, it might not be Robert Turbin. It could end up being Christine Michael. So if the handcuff is not apparent, you may not have to spend a draft pick on him. And during the regular season and throughout the preseason and exhibition games, keep a watch on depth chart battles. People are always constantly asking me about keeper choices. A lot of people in their leagues keep 2 guys, maybe 3 guys, but you always have to remember to go with necessity over luxury. If you're considering a 3rd running back against a number 1 wide receiver, always make sure you fill out that number 1 anchor position before you go with that 3rd running back, which is really a luxury. When I'm always looking at keepers, I want to anchor my positions. My priorities are the number 1 running back, the number 1 wide receiver, the number 1 quarterback. Not necessarily in that order, but you always want to get the first guy to position when you're making a tight decision with keepers.